All right, hey out there, it is June and we are back on the virtual stage with our summer virtual workshop series. And we're going to kick it off with a recipe for strawberry shortcake. If you grow strawberries, you know that June-bearing strawberries are bearing all of their fruit for the whole season in June. So right now is the time to get those strawberries out of the garden, into your kitchen, and get them ready for preparing. It'll be your only chance for the season if you've got the June-bearing ones. So the recipe that we're making this week is a really special one. We are partnering with Madison Metropolitan School District Freedom Schools program this summer and really focusing a lot on Black culture in the garden and the kitchen. And so this recipe that we're making is a recipe that was created by Lena Richard, who was the first Black author of a Creole cookbook in the United States, and it was called the New Orleans Cookbook. That was back in 1939. So for her time, she was a true trailblazer. She not only wrote a cookbook, she also started a cooking school in 1937 to teach folks how to cook, to provide an avenue for Black folks to get better paying jobs in that field of culinary arts. She also was the very first Black chef to have a cooking show in the United States. So she had a cooking show that was featured on TV. People could tune in and learn to make her recipes. So we are excited to feature her recipe today for strawberry shortcake. All right, so we are making the shortbread. We are going to leave out the freeze-dried strawberries, which was part of Lena Richard's recipe. We didn't have those on hand, but we're just going to start with the basics for the actual shortcake, which you cook ahead of time, and then you add the strawberries in later. So we're going to start with just 2 cups of flour. And then we are going to add into that a 1/2 cup of butter-flavored shortening is what she used. You can also use shortening that's not butter-flavored. You can also use butter. So we're going to follow her recipe though, so we can be true to her. And we are making this with our classes this week also. So it's an elementary school summer program. And so we're excited to get out in the garden, harvest strawberries with the kids, and feature Mama Lena in our class. So 1/2 cup of butter-flavored shortening. I'm just going to scoop that out of there. And the first step is just to mix the shortening and the flour together. My favorite way to do that is just with my hands. So I'm going to get in there and get it going. So as we're mixing it up too, another thing that Lena Richard did was start 2 restaurants. So again, a trailblazer for her time. She started a frozen foods company to sell and distribute frozen foods across the country, and she also opened 2 restaurants and, like I said, hosted her own cooking show. So she was really an amazing person. So we're just going to get this flour mixed in with this shortening and get that all mixed together. Similar if you're using butter, just get in there with your hands and make sure that the flour is all mixed and matched in there with the butter so that you have kind of a smaller than pea-sized pieces of butter and shortening left in your flour, and it's all equally distributed throughout. All right, so this is looking pretty good. And next up, we're going to add a tablespoon of sugar. 1 tablespoon, boop, in there. Mix that up. And we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder. This will give your shortcake the little lift it needs to poof up in the oven. And I should say that I preheated the oven to 350 also. So the oven is getting ready to go as we speak. So 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And we will pop the recipe in the comments too, along with a link to learn more about Lena Richard if anyone is interested in digging a little deeper into her story. So get the salt and the baking powder mixed in here. And then the next thing we're going to do is add in some ice cold water. So I actually measured out 5 tablespoons of water already, and the way I made it ice cold, I stuck it in the freezer. All right, so here I am back with my 5 tablespoons of ice cold water that I just pulled out of the the freezer. I'm going to pour it right in here, and then I'm going to add 1 large egg. go. Add that in there. And I'm going to get this all started mixing together. And what I'm going to add last to the shortcake recipe is a tablespoon of melted butter. And you really want to stir it just until the dough starts holding together. You don't want to overmix it too much. So there, I'm going to leave that to start to hold together a little. And if you don't want to come over here, I am just melting the butter on the stovetop. So I just have 1 tablespoon of butter in here melting away. So this recipe is a really rich, delightful recipe with the butter and the butter flavored shortening. And we're going to also make homemade whipped cream that you can put on the top. So here is a trick for whipped cream if you've never done it. Make it in a mason jar. All you have to do is add heavy whipping cream, add some sugar, add a little vanilla extract, and shake it. It turns into whipped cream in like 10 minutes. So much easier than breaking your arm doing the whipping with the whisk. Bring it over here. Just put it in there with the other ingredients. And then we're going to just make sure it's all held together. And this step, again, is a great one if you can to get your hands in there. I know that there's a lot of strawberry shortcake recipes out there too, so if you have a favorite that you want to pop in the comments, we would be excited to see it and to try it. So don't hold back. Let us know how you like to make this also. All right, so you can see that this dough is holding together. And that is all you need. You just need it to hold together. All right, so now we have a nice little ball of shortcake dough. And what we're going to do is move it on over here. And I am going to put a little flour on this cutting board. You can put it right on the counter if you have a lightly floured surface. That's all you need. And then you're going to kind of just pat it. You don't need to roll it with a rolling pin. You can just pat it with your hands to spread it out and flatten it to about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch pieces. The goal is to have little rounds that you'll bake separately and then slice them in half and put the strawberry mixture in the middle and then put the whipped cream on the top. So it's a really good treat for this time of year. And then if you have biscuit cutters, you can use them. If you don't, though, you can do just great with the top of a mason jar and make your little shortcakes rounds just like this. And again, my oven is preheated to 350. So once I have these all cut out, I can just pop them right in and get them cooking. Okay, spread that out a little bit so we can get one more out of here. And then if you have an uneven amount of dough, just ball it up again, pat it out again, and you can get a couple more out of that. If you do have an egg allergy, you can use flaxseed meal instead of an egg and just use flaxseed meal and water as an egg replacement. So sometimes we do have students who have egg allergies. There's a replacement for almost any allergy that exists. All right. Okay, so this made 8 little shortcakes, and I'm just going to take them and pop them in the oven. And we'll cook them for about 25 minutes. All right, so we are on to the strawberries part of the strawberry shortcake. So you really just want to take the leaves, cut the tops off the strawberries, the leaves, and then quarter them. And you're going to add 1/3 cup of brown sugar. So make sure when you're doing brown sugar, you pack it in there. Add that in there. And 1/4 teaspoon of salt, so just a touch of salt. And then you're just going to mash it. You can mash it with a fork. You can mash it with a potato masher. We have a potato masher, and that's the easiest if you got it. You just squish those strawberries up with that sugar and that tiny little bit of salt just to bring out the flavor of the strawberries. That salt kind of draws out the sweet. And smash them up until they're nice and mooshed. smooshed, smushed, whatever you want to say. And these are just fresh strawberries. They're not cooked. It's just strawberries and a little bit of brown sugar. If you want to slice up a few more fresh strawberries just to put on the top, you sure can. Makes it beautiful too. We're just gonna leave that at that. So we're gonna let those strawberries sit until our shortcake is out of the oven, and then I'll show you how to assemble it. But in the meantime, I'm gonna show you our trick for making whipped cream. So this is Lena Richard's recipe, but this is our mason jar method. So it's just a cup of heavy whipping cream. Just pour it right in a mason jar. If you want to make a double recipe, you can just pop 2 cups in there. And then I usually use just plain white granulated sugar, but she likes to use powdered sugar. So we're going to get a 1/4 cup of powdered sugar and put that in there with the cream. And then a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. That's it. That's how simple whipped cream is. And then all you have to do for this method, if you have kids, I promise you they'll love it. Put the top on, make sure it's on all the way, or you'll end up with cream all over your kitchen. And then you just start to shake it. You can dance around your kitchen while you do it. You can turn on some tunes. You can do whatever you want. And you just shake it, shake it, shake, shake, shake it, shake. It takes probably about 10 minutes. And just check it every now and again. You can hear that liquid moving around sound. Once the whipped cream is getting close to done, it'll stop sloshing and it'll start feeling less like a liquid while you shake it. That is your time to open up your jar and check it and see what it's looking like. So I'm just going to keep shaking this for a few minutes and we'll be back to check on it in a minute. All right, here we are back. We pulled our shortcakes out of the oven. You can make these a little thicker too if you like a thicker shortcake for your strawberry shortcake. And then what I did was I just took a knife and I cut it into like a sandwich basically. So cut it down the middle to make 2 halves. And then I'm just going to take some of the strawberry that we prepared and put a little bit on the inside. Okay. Then you pop the top on it. If you want to put some fresh strawberries on top for the garnish, you can. And then look at this whipped cream, y'all. So we open up this jar and look, it is whipped to perfection here. So with the shortcake, you want to actually let it cool for about 10 minutes before you put the strawberries in and the whipped cream on top so the whipped cream doesn't melt. For us, we are just not going to wait for it to cool today. So our whipped cream might melt a little bit, but you can see that you can just put that right on the top, and then you have a beautiful strawberry shortcake ready to go. Lena Richards, thank you for all your pioneering amazingness, and this is the strawberry shortcake. So if y'all try it at home, let us know what you thought. Hope you enjoy this recipe and hope you are enjoying the beginning of summer, you all. We'll see you next time.